Corinne, and this is Free Press Fail. I'll get right into the top news this week. So, the love of my life, Tucker Carlson, set the internet on fire with a monologue this week that explained what we probably should have known forever. The FBI was behind January 6th. This isn't super surprising considering the FBI's history of being involved in basically every riot in our history. Somehow they're always undercover investigating all of the big riots, and that investigation always involves them participating in them. Like, hello, Chicago 7 all over again, which is a pretty okay movie, by the way. But the mainstream media is super unhappy with the story coming to light. Every single liberal fact-checker ally has disputed the claim with the absolutely weak argument that it's not true, Tucker, and we love the FBI. They've said his claims were baseless, but they didn't dispute the really important fact. Every single person in jail right now for the so-called insurrection on January 6th has named the same men as planners of the riot. Those guys are not in jail. They're not even indicted. And why is that? There's only a couple reasons. They either work for the FBI or they are working with the FBI. And to me, that distinction is honestly not that important. The important part is our own government rallied a weak little mob in order to disrupt any questioning of the 2020 election results, and since then, they've tried to blame it on Trump supporters. That's an argument that's never really made sense to me for a few reasons. One, if this was an event planned by Trump supporters, I really feel like I would be invited. I never got the memo. I get 31 Trump texts a day from every MAGA and MAGA adjacent group there is, but I didn't get even one hint that our plan was to storm the Capitol. No one gave me the heads up so I could just not be in DC getting my hair done at the time. I doubt it. Two, if you think Trump supporters conspired to raid the Capitol, if you think it was planned by a MAGA crew, you're telling me that you actually believe that the most well-armed demographic in the entire nation showed up to take the Capitol and left all their weapons at home. You think proud Second Amendment-loving Republicans wanted to start a revolution and didn't bring a gun. That's ridiculous. And three, people always hate when I say this, but here's the truth. If Trump supporters wanted to take the Capitol on January 6th, we'd still have the Capitol. That's just a fact. There was no way the unprepared security guards and scared members of Congress could have stopped an insurrection if an insurrection was actually on the agenda. But who cares about what's obvious? Facts don't matter. I'm actually sure that the fact checkers won't like what I'm saying now either. That's because they hate the truth. So, while I've never been a Bush did 9/11 person, I am 100% now an FBI did 1/6 person. It's just undeniable, no matter how many times the New York Times bends over backwards to hide it. Hi, I'm Corinne, and this is Free Press Fail. This week, the government is making me hate them even more than they normally do, which is saying quite a bit. So last week, Tucker Carlson reported that the NSA had been spying on him. A whistleblower reached out and said, hey, this is happening. Tucker believed them, so he reported it. Then the NSA denied it in a terribly weak statement that all but confirmed that it was true. They were intentionally vague to say that he was not the target of surveillance, but they never denied spying on him, which made anyone with half a brain and a slight paranoia towards the government, specifically towards the NSA, a little bit suspicious. Now, it's only been a week, and we've got proven sources in the ironically named intelligence community that have been leaking the contents of the emails to members of the press, who are such good people, by the way, that they continued to accept the leaks rather than reporting the offense, probably hoping they'd get something personal and it'd be a huge break for them. Maybe a text between Tucker and his wife, or an interesting exchange between Tucker and his brother, who always seemed like a lot of fun to me. But instead, they just kept getting emails from Tucker doing his job. I'm sure this was incredibly disappointing to the reporters and to the NSA, who apparently thought these emails were as big a bombshell as finding a fully assembled Lego set of the Capitol building in a rioter's home. But it's not more disappointing than the absolute train wreck that our nation has become, since apparently every executive branch bureaucrat has decided they are now the oligarchs who can use our taxpayer-funded resources to take on anyone they feel like. For all this talk about Russia, the media is really missing the big story on the Soviet-level stuff. Of course, the NSA now claims that Tucker's emails were intercepted because he was in contact with a Russian target who intended to set him up with Vladimir Putin for an interview. But here's the problem with that. Even if Tucker was literally best friends with Putin, it is not lawful to spy on and leak info of an American citizen. They could have matching outfits and plans for a girls' trip to Miami, and that still wouldn't authorize them to spy on Tucker. A FISA warrant only very specifically applies to the surveillance of foreign actors' communications. But the NSA was leaking emails sent from Tucker to Tucker's producer, two very clearly not Russian parties. No surprise, these FISA warrants have been abused in the past. They used the same trick to go after members of the Trump campaign in 2016. This is not the first time, and it definitely won't be the last if we're going by what the deep state enablers are saying right now. Liberal journalists and lawmakers and a bunch of neocons trying desperately to stay relevant have totally rushed to the defense of the NSA, as if the NSA needs or cares about their support. They don't. They're all screaming to all 5 of their Twitter followers that Tucker deserved it. If I ever supported someone getting canceled for something, it is this. This is so un-American, this idea that political adversaries no longer deserve the protection of the Constitution. And this is apparently just a common thing with liberals now. Tucker deserves to be spied on because he's a Republican. Rudy Giuliani should lose his job because he's a Republican. Ashley Babbitt's shooter should never be brought to justice because Ashley is a Republican. Apparently, rights do not apply to anyone who has owned or been in the room with someone who owns a MAGA hat. That's why every single person in our media and our government who has declared Trump the enemy has somehow managed to excuse every unlawful action against the former president and all of his supporters. Fake warrants, spying, leaking private data, armed raids, murder, anything is okay with them. They feel so justified in their offense because they truly believe they are right and the right is wrong. With that level of self-righteousness so apparent now, is it even really hard to believe that these same people would steal the election? I'm more convinced than ever.